Hello everyone. Today we will be completing lesson 4 in booklet 8. That is adding and subtracting fractions, but this time we need to change the two denominators. So in the previous lesson, we learned how to add and subtract two fractions, but in that lesson, the denominators were the same in both of the fractions. Now, if you're lucky, that will happen and your life is easy. You can just add the numerators, but oftentimes that won't be the case. Right? Take a look at these two circles. You can see that the first one is split up into 4 pieces, while the second is split up into 6 pieces. This makes them very difficult to compare, so we prefer shapes or circles that are split up into the same number of pieces. That's the same idea of having two fractions with different denominators. So as you can see here, we have 1 over 2, subtract 1 over 5. Now, you cannot subtract the numerators until the denominators are the same. So you have a couple of options. We will go over one technique in this lesson and a slightly harder but shorter technique in the next lesson. In this lesson, your strategy is the following. In order to make the denominators the same, you are going to multiply the second fraction by the first denominator. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, the first denominator is 2, the denominator of the first fraction. And when I say to multiply the second fraction by 2, what I mean is multiply the top number by 2 and also multiply the bottom number by 2. One of the rules of fractions is that you are allowed to multiply or divide the top number by whatever you would like, as long as you do the exact same thing to the bottom number. So 1 times 2 is equal to 2, and 5 times 2 is equal to 10. We call 1 over 5 and 2 over 10 equivalent fractions. We're going to talk more about this in a future lesson. Now, the next step is to take the first fraction and multiply it by the second denominator. The second denominator is 5, so that means we multiply the top by 5 and the bottom by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. So in short, multiply the first fraction by the second denominator and the second fraction by the first denominator. Now, we originally were subtracting these two fractions. That's going to stay the same. Please put a subtraction symbol between those two. If you've done this correctly, your denominator should be the same. In this case, they are both 10. And now we can subtract the two fractions just like we did in the previous lesson. Because the denominators are the same, I can subtract the numerators. 5 minus 2 is 3. And please remember, your denominator does not change here. Let's try that again below. It's going to take a couple tries, but once you get it, it is pretty straightforward. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to multiply the second fraction by the first denominator. That means I multiply the 1 by 3 and the 4 by 3. That is going to give me 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Then we're going to multiply the first fraction by the second denominator. That means that we're multiplying both of those numbers by 4. 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now we're adding those two fractions. And you can see now that they both share a common denominator of 12, so we can simply add their numerators. 8 plus 3 is equal to 11, And please remember that you do not change the denominator. Right, that's about it for this lesson. Take some time to complete these last couple examples and then compare those to my answers. I'm going to try solving these all in one go. So I'm going to multiply the 7 and the 4 by the second denominator, which is 3. I'm going to multiply the 1 and the 3 by the first denominator, which is 4. That is going to give me 7 times 3 is 21 over 4 times 3, which is 12. Subtract 1 times 4, which is 4, over 3 times 4, which is also 12. Now that they have a common denominator, 21 minus 4 gives me 17 over 12. In the second fraction, I'm going to multiply the in the second example, I'm going to multiply the first fraction by 4 because that's the second denominator, and I'm going to multiply the second fraction by 7. This is going to equal 4 over 28 because 1 times 4 is 4 and 7 times 4 is 28, plus 3 times 7 is 21 over 4 times 7, which is 28. Now that they have a common denominator, I can simply do 4 plus 21, which is 25 over 28. So take some time now to complete the worksheet below, and if you have any questions, make sure that you ask. Thank you.